Yeah, I get. Sure, why not? Let's do
Okay.
let's do a show. It's time. It's that time.
Okay.
It's the time where we
Cool.
do a show weekly.
Spencer, Jason, you guys good to start an actual show up?
I'm
Yeah,
ready.
sure. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
let's stop depressing people
I mean,
unintentionally and
I'm
do
ready
it
to
intentionally.
stop talking so that we can start talking again.
Stopping
Okay.
depressing people and doing a show are not mutually exclusive.
Not for this.
No,
show.
no. I mean, I'm just saying right now, everything we're making them feel is unintentional. Let's at least do it with a purpose. The
Okay.
outcome, totally the same. But now we're doing it intentionally.
All right. Welcome to Azeroth Roundtable, episode 335. I'm Ben Bumhofer, and I would like to say hi to Amaretto on Pagel in WoW Classic. Thanks for being awesome. With me this week, as always, is John Jagger. How's it going, John?
Fine, thank you. What the hell was that?
Well, someone mentioned to Nevermore that they enjoyed the show because she was helping with guild invites and stuff, and I just wanted to give them a quick hello.
Okay, it's just like all of a sudden you pulled the like WoW Q&A at BlizzCon guy and was just like suddenly plugging something at the beginning of the show. It really threw me for a loop. So with that out of the way, hello Ben! It is Friday night here in Azeroth and I am super excited to be joining you here at the round table. But Ben, it is a rounder table than normal because we got two guests with us this week, which is always fun, always exciting, and means I have to redo the overlay every time. But it's worth it. It's worth it for these two because we have Spencer and Jason on, and I've introduced them both, and now they have to try to decide who's going to talk first. Let's see how it goes.
Well, I mean, I just want to say hi, guys. Triage here from Death Jesters Guild, Storm Rage US. I have some questions, but I just wanted to get that out first. Shout out to my people over there. Thanks for having us on. We really appreciate it.
I love you so much, Spencer.
That was really good. That was like
not gonna-
rehearsed. That was amazing. That was fantastic.
He's got it written on a cue card for November.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
He's
Just
ready.
go through my notes.
Yeah, I'm not going to keep the BlizzCon Q&A line energy going. But hi guys, thanks for having us back.
Oh man,
This is the
you
first
disturbed
time-
the show.
I'm sorry, that's what I do. You guys know that when you ask me to come on.
No, I feel like that is still BlizzCon energy because you always have the guy that like hijacks it and turns it into an ad for his raid team, and then it's always followed by a guy who really doesn't want to be the guy that was just before him, and he
Right.
comes up and is just like, "Hi, my question is,
Just
why are
all-
you
all
nerfing
business.
hunters?"
Right, this is all business. That's true. But this is, I think, this has been like the longest gap that I haven't been on the show in the last like 9 months. And this is also the first time that I've been on with both of you guys in the last like 4 times I've been on the show. So
It's funny you mentioned that because I told Ben today, I said, look, there is a very slim chance I'm missing next week. You might want to get Spencer and Jason for it. And he said, but that was, we already found out we were having you this week. So I won't spoil who our guests are next week, but it's 2 people on the off chance that I can't make it. But it's not likely.
I mean, you can't replace John with just one. I mean, it has to be two people.
It has to be 2 people.
you can't make it now. If you can make it, you now have the 4 camera overlay done.
That's true.
So-
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah. You know what, John? Why don't you just save it as one of the scenes?
It's in my contract that if I'm not here, I must be replaced by 2 people to make me feel better. Because I'm like, then at the end of the day, when I like listen to the show and I'm like, oh god, that was a better show, I can at least go, yeah, but it took 2
there's 2
people.
people.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, to be fair, it's always okay. We need someone who's really opinionated on something, but still also positive. So it's hard to get that. I mean, you don't even have that mix. So I try to balance it out that way.
I never had that mix.
That's very true. Okay. Anyways, hey guys, thank you very much for joining us on this momentous week in World of Warcraft. I can't even
Yes.
say
Which
the
one?
word.
The expanded World of
Exactly.
Warcraft or the classic World of Warcraft?
Or as I call it, WoW Now.
Stop.
Classic.
It's
Ooh, that's
2
catchy.
weeks in a row of WoW
That's
now, and I
catchy.
can't do it. I can't.
I actually like that.
It would be great if it wasn't tied to so many other social media movements. That would be the
That's all
the
it
one
is.
caveat.
It makes me think of like First of all, it makes me think of that. Now that's what I call music
Yes.
CDs.
Yes.
Like that's all
Yes,
I
there
think
is
of
that.
when he says
There
it.
is that.
And I hate it
That's okay.
so much. I
It's okay.
hate it so much.
It's okay.
I'm trying to coin expanded WoW as the alternative to classic. There's classic and there's expanded.
That's like a nice way of saying WoW's become too fat.
Well, maybe. I mean, I guess if you're anthropomorphizing WoW, I'm thinking more of like a voluminous tome.
Do I look
Opening-
fat? No, you look a little
You're
expanded.
expanded.
Look a
but
little expanded.
not-
It's like you could call someone bloated, but that just doesn't sound nice. You call them expanded instead. That's
Yeah.
right.
See, there you go.
Yeah, you're just.
It's like, when you have that Taco Bell baby, you're just expanded.
Nobody has ever said a corpse was expanded, so there's no weird connotations with like
Yeah, exactly,
bloated. Yeah.
Well,
like,
you just did it.
Hey,
Man, I just ate that Thanksgiving dinner, and am I ever expanded at the moment?
Yeah.
I mean, we were just talking in the pre-show about Orson Welles.
yeah. We'll just leave it at that, I guess.
Okay, yeah.
Spencer,
Move
what do
on.
you call the previous current iteration of WoW? I'm trying not to give mine away.
I just
What do you
used
call
the
it?
the expanded thing because Jason was trying to coin and pass on the expanded thing, so I went with that. I've just been referring to it as the expansion, so I just call it BFA and Classic. And that's sort of
Jason,
what I've been doing.
Will you describe to Ben what it's like to have a co-host that goes along with your idea instead of actively rebels against it?
Could you also explain that to John?
Yes. I mean, listen. I don't. I just want to coin something someday in my life. And
Okay.
This is the only opportunities that I have. How else am I going to do that? So
I mean, let me
I
tell you,
understand his
for a
dream.
monthly payment, we can get you some sweet Stone Cold Steve Austin coins that you can.
Oh, really?
Yep, we'll get you on board. We'll get you
Okay.
something in the mail. Anyway, I just call it World of Warcraft because it's still World of Warcraft.
That's what it says on the box.
Yeah,
It
it's what
is.
we've been calling it for this long. Why are we changing it? The introduction
Because
of a different
Well,
product
yes.
with a different name does not change the name of the first thing.
I mean, when it comes down
That's
to
true.
it, when you're talking about one, it's really hard to confuse it with the other because they're so vastly different at this point.
Yes.
That it's not like you're like, so I was walking around Borealis in BFA, just so everyone's clear.
Right.
And like, you know,
I was playing my monk. Now this is in
Yeah.
WoW now, just to be
Yeah.
clear. Not
Good
classic.
word usage. That's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
I will say though, they did add a new hope to Star Wars once The Empire Strikes Back came out.
It's true. I mean, things change. There's
I
been
don't
accurate-
know. I don't think
change.
that's
Although I
the
still call it
same
Star Wars,
thing.
so it doesn't matter. Anyways, so Classic came out this week, in case you couldn't tell from all of our horrible conversation about what we should call it. Well, no, we didn't. Not
No,
what we should
we
call
know what to
Classic,
call
whatever.
classic. It's called
Yeah.
classic. Although
No,
then they put
exactly.
out that really cool video and they're like, we're going back to vanilla. And I was like, they themselves acknowledge the term vanilla.
Right.
Amazing.
Yeah, that was but see, that wasn't about classic though. That was just about the 15th.
Yeah.
It wasn't.
No,
It was like part of the classic
it?
marketing push, but it wasn't. It was specific. It was like
it was
a
the 15th
celebration of
anniversary
15
thing.
years.
Yeah.
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 So that was weird to me too. But I was like, well, I guess it's part of the classic marketing push, but it's not really specifically about classic as a product.
But the
It's
last
about
line
15
is we're
years.
going back to vanilla. How is it not
Right, yeah.
about classic?
They're
Well,
making
be-
alts.
because
Look.
it's part of it's because it's
But
part
then
of
they'd
the
actually be
15th.
starting. They'd be going back to Cataclysm.
Let
and
me
no one
roll
wants
it back
that.
because now I feel like I'm getting off topic because I just want to say that video is the coolest thing.
It really is.
I have watched it
It
so
was
many
great, man.
times.
Yeah.
It's
What a
amazing.
cool surprise.
I don't wanna poo-poo it at all. That video was great. That video was the entire nostalgia hit that I needed. Forget classic for a moment. Like
Right.
that video alone, I was just like, yeah, they're singing songs about the things I did.
Yeah.
That's all I needed.
Yeah, it was really, really well put together. I think it came off great, and yeah, I didn't expect that to show up on YouTube this week, like anything like that. That was really, really cool.
And then all the different like extra random bits of it's like, hey, yay, wow, and stuff that some of the guest faces and stuff that have been putting out. That's been pretty dang awesome. I gotta say that the love for World of Warcraft is one of the most unifying things that our player base has. Which I mean, that seems to go without saying, but when you can just kind of, put it into words, into song or something like that, and everybody's just like having a blast with what's going on and everything. That's when WoW kind of just shines. Community is a huge thing about this game, and being able to really just share that with people that, one, maybe you didn't know played, or two, just you haven't been able to see in a while, and you just kind of meet back up and stuff. It's really great, absolutely great. And
Yeah.
I mean, I think this video really showcases that.
Yeah, it's been really it's been an incredible ride over the last 15 years, through the ups and downs, but just like making relationships with people from all over the world, that respond to the same things that you do when it comes to a game like this. And um, I can't imagine any other hobby that I could have invested my time in that would have had that kind of impact on my life and my social connections with people from all walks of life and all corners of the globe.
So with that being said, have you guys, I mean, it seems like a weird question to ask, but have you actually dipped your toe into Classic, and what kind of experiences have you been seeing?
All right, well, I'll let Jason go first on this one because he's only been doing the one tune thing and he's been plowing away at it.
Yeah. I played a fair bit, probably about 20 or so hours since launch, I guess. I got really lucky on Tuesday night or Monday night. I got in, well, I don't know, I was in queue for maybe about 15 minutes tops.
You didn't know the trick?
I got in right at, well, I was busy and I couldn't
Oh,
sit in the
okay.
queue. I was busy playing expanded WoW. And also
For those
I
who
had,
didn't know, I want to share the trick. I got to share the trick. I'm sorry, I'm interrupting.
okay.
The trick is you log in and you go to character creation screen, and it will not log you out. So people were logging in at 3 o'clock in the afternoon Eastern time and going to character creation and walking away from their computers.
Oh,
And then everyone else would get in a queue behind them. And then the people, when the servers went live, would jump out of the character creation screen, which of course would have all their pre-made characters from when they did their name reservation, and just log directly in. So that's what me and Sloot and a bunch of other people did.
oh,
That's how we skipped the queue.
That is diabolical.
Well,
I thought I'd
especially if you
share. I
forget,
feel less guilty doing it when I share it with people.
well, I don't think it's too useful at this point. Maybe there's still some queues out
after
there.
the fact.
Yeah. What if you forget though, or like you start burning your cooking or something, and now you're sitting, the servers are up, and you're just holding up the line because.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's people out there who have stood their keyboard up on end, and they have a fan that is oscillating and hitting their spacebar to make them jump.
I saw
every
that.
now and then.
Yep.
And that is keeping them online. People are
Or one of
finding a
those
way to stay online.
Water drinking
but
birds.
I mean, honestly,
I derailed Jason's character leveling here.
I think to some degree, without the anticipation of accessing the servers, you're not having a launch experience with vanilla. Like,
Okay.
like that was part of the deal. Was like it was the anticipation of playing and sort of the mystery of accessing this weird closed box that was World of Warcraft. That was what made part of that launch window really special, even though it was obnoxious. It was part of the story. It was part of the narrative. It was like part of everybody's shared experiences. So even though, like, yeah, would I prefer not to sit in a queue for an hour so I can log in a little bit before bed? Sure, but I mean, it'll be that way soon enough. The initial like launch wave of craziness to me has been pretty fun, and reflects those early experiences in kind of a funny way. But yeah, so I mean, I got pretty lucky on Monday night. I got to play basically all night with no service interruptions, and at this point, I've recreated my main from the live game. I've one and only main ever for 15 years now, and so I just recreated that character. Same customization options, same class, all the same stuff, and it's funny because it's all the same content that I played, but I'm having a completely opposite experience of the way I actually played back then, because now I have this social infrastructure of people to play with, and we have this shared information about how to play the game a little bit more efficiently. And so, in 2004, there's no way that I would have been level 20 and clearing 5-man dungeons in the first 3 days of the game's release. All of these tools and analytics and guides and social connections we've created over the years have really reshaped the experience a lot.
It has, but I think for me, the thing that has been probably the most interesting watching Classic is how, despite all of that, how still authentic to that experience it hit. Because I, on paper, would have assumed the opposite. I would have assumed you can't go back, you can't unring the bell, you know, you can't pretend you didn't have this knowledge, you can't pretend that you hadn't seen these things that you've seen. But in spite of that, a lot of it is still working and it's still hitting a lot of those points, and for a lot of people too, even people that were there. I mean, it's been even more exciting to watch the people who haven't been there see it for the first time, but even for the people who were there, you know, watching them kind of come back to it and struggle with the same things and rediscover the same things and bump up against those hurdles that we had, you know, before we even knew they were hurdles. That's been really cool to see, and that's been really fun to watch from Classic growing.
Well, from my perspective, leveling up, so I did two tunes, because one of them I'm leveling with a group of friends, who's my druid, and then I have a mage who I've also been leveling on my own, in my own little relaxed time. Classic for me is like this nice, relaxing sort of experience where I log in and there's not really any pressure of what I need to accomplish when I'm online. It's just run around and explore and do whatever you want to do. I mean, I was actually just mentioning this to Jason did a call-in show just before this. It was interesting to me where when I'm logging into WoW Now, if you will,
I won't, thank you.
Okay. I have a list of things that I want to accomplish. I want to get, you know, X world quest done, and I want to run a Mythic Plus, and I have this list of things I want to do. And when I log into Classic, it's like I just want to log in and I'll be like, all right, so I'll see what quests are in my log. Well, maybe I'll go and check out this zone instead. I'm going to pick up some quests there. I'll run around and do those for a bit. Oh, I'm going to level soon. Hey, it looks like I can skin these mobs. I'm going to level up my skinning a bit. Oh, my cooking's really low. Maybe I'll fish for a bit and catch some fish and then like level up my cooking. There isn't like a set path for me when I get into the game. It's very much just this is a nice, relaxing experience. I just take it in stride as I go. If I happen to spend 30 minutes fishing because that's what I feel like doing in that window, then that's absolutely fine to do. If I happen to spend, 35 minutes running from Teldrassil to Westfall because I want to eventually have the flight points there for a Deadmines run later on, I do that. Like it's whatever it is you want to do. So I don't feel like I feel like it is a relaxing experience that's rewarding because I don't go into it with a checklist of things at the moment. It's a break.
Right there is the big lesson that I hope Blizzard takes away from this hype for Classic is I haven't gotten in yet. I've made characters. Couple, like earlier this week, I put out hey, thinking about streaming again. What do you want to see? And of course, because people knew I had said I'm not playing Classic, everybody said, play WoW Classic. And I thought, well, maybe. So I might. I'm torn with the idea of it, but honestly, like my excitement level when I first thought about it and when I made those characters was zero. Like it went from 0 to everybody going stream WoW Classic, and it went to 1. You know, I was barely moved the needle. But the thing
out of how many though?
We'll
out
say
of 10, out of 100?
we'll say out of 10. Sure, why not? That's decent, but still low.
Yeah.
But the thing that I have taken from it and watching it and going, oh my gosh, this was the thing that was magical about WoW to me, was that sense of you're in this world, go make your own story. Not we're going to tell you a story, not we're going to just hold your hand and guide you from place to place. Not this is going to be over in an hour. Just go out there, find the fun that you want to find, and do it. And it made me realize watching people play it and watching people go through that again, oh my gosh, that's what I'm missing from this game so much right now. And I feel like it has slowly bled out of the game to a degree. And I think when I look at it and I look at Battle for Azeroth and I look at why maybe I'm frustrated with the current content, I think it is a culmination of that for me. This expansion feels more like what you said, a list of chores, a list of things to do, more than anyone that I've played so far. And I think that's what I'm pushing against. And I think that's why all of a sudden that needle for me, as far as interest in Classic, has actually started to move significantly, because I'm like, man, I want to rediscover that. Like, that sense of just like, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this. And that slower pacing too is a big thing too. Like, it was the thing leading up to it that we kept joking about. I'm not in school anymore. I don't have summer vacation to spend on this game. Like, respect my time, you know, and all of that. But I think there is a world where, you know, maybe endgame is a little less emphasized, or a little less all that the game is about, where they can put out an expansion that's about, take your time. You don't have to get this done in a day. You don't have to get this done in a week. Like, explore the world, enjoy the world. It's not about a race to the top. I think they could find a way to do that if they were willing to put in the effort to make that so.
Yeah,
Well,
it's tricky because two things happened over time. They put more things into the game, they made them more accessible, and they threw time limits on them to give people motivation to get online every day. And so you lost that relaxation that you talk about and that I talk about, of logging in and just sort of figuring out what you want to do with your time in WoW, as opposed to logging in and going, hey, this thing's going to expire at this point, or when you're leveling up going, hey, I'm not really liking this zone, I'm going to go wander over to that zone and do whatever I want there, because all the mobs scale and everything scales, so you don't really have to worry about, you know, a pattern or anything, or traveling far distances or anything like that, like there is in Classic. And I talked about this when we did an episode a couple weeks back, where I really feel like one of the things I love about Classic, and that I was looking forward to with it launching, was danger when leveling up. The fact that you could be wandering around Elwyn Forest and happen to wander too far south into Duskwood and just get wrecked by Worgen that are running around in those woods, or you know you're choosing to go around Elwyn as another great example, when you wander too far into Westfall, and like there's zones that are outside of your levelscape that keep you kind of in where you're supposed to be, and you learn your lesson pretty quickly when you wander in an area that's too hard for you. And the fact that they removed the areas that are too hard from you from the game, it just no longer exists, was something that people really cheered and championed, because they liked the idea of choice and having all this choice. But I also felt like it removed that feeling of progressing and getting stronger and earning that position of being able to go onto a new zone and getting to that point of gearing and level and experience to be able to go into a zone of a higher difficulty. And it made things kind of bland across the board as far as the experience went for leveling up. And they threw so much, and this is what you talked about, they threw so much at endgame, so much of the game happens at endgame, that there really isn't a purpose in really soaking in and enjoying the leveling experience as much. You want to get to endgame, because you can always go back and do all that leveling stuff later if you want to, as far as the quest chains and whatnot go. And you can do all the dungeons at max level anyways too, because they all scale up and everything scales up. Whereas the people who rush through Classic right now are rushing past dungeons to do them at level. You might never run a Dead Mines if you just hit level 24 or 25. There's no reason for you to go there. Like, it's just, you've leveled past it. So it's not like you're going to hit max level and go, you know what, I never ran Dead Mines, let's go back and run Dead Mines. Like, there's no purpose in doing that. So I think it's a different experience. The experience for Classic has always been all about the journey. It's about going from 1 to 60. There's very little to do at endgame other than run a few dungeons, maybe do some PvP, which you can do when you're leveling up anyways, and it all sort of, you know, happens around different level tiers. Or do the raids when the raids eventually come out. That's the only motivations for the endgame stuff. Whereas when you're leveling up, there's tons of zones to visit, there's tons of dungeons to visit, there's all this other stuff you can work on. And I think it's just one of those things where they really built the original World of Warcraft on the journey of character progression. And what they've ended with now, and the product they have now, is it is about progressing your character at max level with gear. And by doing that, you've taken out some of that adventure that you talk about, that you long for, John.
Well, it's funny that you say that too, because I think out of the four of us, I'm the only one who didn't ever play vanilla. You know, I came in during Burning Crusade. So for me, my vanilla experience was level up fast to catch up to everybody. And, you know, there are still dungeons that I've never been in just because it's one of those things that's, well, I didn't have a group to go with, and if I did go with anybody, it was John, and he, kind of power leveled me through something. So it's like, oh, this is Sunken Temple, and then you go here and
yeah.
here and over there and over there, and I'm just like, okay. And then he forgot where to go because Sunken Temple is a huge mess and no one knows where to go. So then we kind of try something different. Okay, let's go up this set of stairs instead. And oh wait, no, I think I need to unlock that boss by going over here. And yeah, so that was my experience with that dungeon. But it's kind of weird because it's always been hurry up and catch up to everybody else for me for WoW. In Burning Crusade, I finally got to the point where, oh, cool. I'm at endgame now. What do I do? It just happened to be a raid night and they needed somebody. So I went in and, got my tier shoulders or something from King, whatever his name is, in Gruul's Lair. And 3 weeks later, John said, oh, no, you need to turn these in and they become actual like shoulders that you can wear and, just things like that. And
Best geared mage, but doesn't even realize it yet.
yeah, it was pretty great. I had I had a 2-set bonus between that and Karazhan. Had no idea what I was doing with those pieces. I'm just like, I gotta do something. Oh well. But it's one of those things where that whole experience has only been my WoW experience, and that continues with, WoW now. Anytime that there's a new expansion, I always take my time and I really enjoy what I'm doing, leveling and everything like that. Like, to me, the entire game, the meat and potatoes of the game is that leveling experience. The stuff at endgame, I do it because, I hang out with my friends and we raid and everything, but I'm at the point now where next expansion, don't even know if I'm going to do that anymore. It's one of those things where it's a time investment that I'm not sure if I want to do that. And while I enjoy leveling and all that stuff, when I got into Classic, and I made a hunter, by the way, hunter.
Was it a night elf? Did you go full stereotype?
No, I didn't. I made an orc hunter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so, I kind of go in there and I'm like, okay, well, I remember I made an orc or a troll at one point, so I remember these quests and, kind of going through doing stuff. And I grouped up once or twice with someone while we were waiting for, like, a mob to spawn or something. And it was just kind of like, okay, cool, just running around doing stuff. And I finished up in the Valley of Trials, or I think that's what it's called, and went to Senjin Village, found out, oh, there's no inn here, and then ran all the way up to Razor Hill, logged out there, and I just haven't gone back. I don't know if I really view it the same as, yeah, just take your time and do stuff, just because, I never really had that experience before. So am I going to ever really log back in and play more? I don't know yet. And like, I love the idea of all the fun that everybody's having and all the community that's being built, and everybody just, like, it's the greatest thing, tossing out a heal for someone who might need it, or giving someone a random buff or whatever.
The drive-by buffs.
Exactly. Like, that stuff is still some of the greatest that you can find in World of Warcraft. The community comes together. We're all in dire straits together, and we're helping everybody out. That's neat. But like, if I level a character, I don't know what the point is for me to do that. So it's one of those things where I'll probably jump in a little bit more, but it's not going to be a driving force. And even then, I feel like if I'm not in there, like, really actively doing it now, I'm just going to have the same issue that I had before, where I'm just playing catch up at that point. Like, because I didn't log in Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, I'm already like, 10, 15 levels behind everybody else who's been playing. I think I got up to like level 6 and, on my first night.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's an understandable problem to have. But I mean, we did hear about, kind of going off of one of the things you said there about one of the big stories that was going around social media was the bag man today. I don't know if you all saw that, but the guy who basically went into Orgrimmar and was like, I'm the bag man, I'm giving people bags, because, we all know one of the most valuable items you can get in those early days of WoW is a bag. You feel like you won $1 million if a mob drops a bag. I remember, like, a real Cain and Abel situation when I was leveling with someone, and they're like, oh, it dropped a bag for me, and I was like, what? And I was so upset. I was like, hold on. I need that for reasons. It's cool that people are doing that, and that's the thing you don't really see anymore so much. Maybe it just doesn't get attention, but at the same time, like if somebody goes into Orgrimmar right now and is like, I'm the bag man, I'm handing out bags, people are like, shut up, I've got 15 billion gold, I'll just go buy bags, leave me alone.
Yeah.
I'm fine, but we're all good over here. And I do understand where Ben's coming from, though, with the for what purpose. Because while the needle has definitely moved and my interest in Classic has gone up, it's gone up in the way of, oh, it's cool to revisit a thing that I used to be into and experience it again. But there is some element of me that's sitting there going, I know I'm not going to raid. I'm not even 100% sure if I'm going to be grouping and doing dungeons, but we'll see. I understand that that can probably change. There will be eventually a time where I'm like, oh man, Zul'Farrak was really cool. Remember when you have the fight on top of the pyramid? Ah, hell yeah, I got to do that again.
Yep. You took me up there and killed everything yourself.
Yep. It was really fun for me.
Yep, and then it glitched.
Yep, and because I was too good at killing. So I might get into dungeons, but there is this element of like, yeah, I'm going to get in, I'm going to do that, and then it's like, oh wait, but for what? What is my end with this? Do I hit 60 and go, I classicked and turn it off? Do I roll another character? Do I even make it that far? So I definitely understand where Ben's coming from with, what is the ultimate purpose of this, especially when definitely, I think it's fair to say Ben's still very invested in the current game.
Wow, no.
Well, it's interesting because for me, I when I look at Classic, I don't look at what I want to do down the line. I'm just enjoying the experience I'm having now, right? So it's living in the moment in that game. For me, it's not planning out what I want to do at 40, what I want to do at 60. I want to do this dungeon with this people. Like for me, it's just, hey, I got friends who I don't normally get to play with because they're often in my case they're on EU. And so they're playing Classic on NA, and it actually is fun to actually play with them.
Cool.
It's a situation where I'm able to play the game with some friends and have a good time with them outside of the actual live BFA game during downtime for BFA. So I still I'm progressing on Mythic Ashara. Like we're going full steam ahead to get top 100 US and all the normal stuff that we're doing for our guild plan, and I still make sure I've caught up on things as in the live game. But it's one of those cases of like, hey, what do I want to sit down and play on my computer today? I don't need to go and do a round of world quests. I'm 67 on my neck. There's no major reward left for me other than doing the Dragonflight quest thing at 70. I don't have any requirements for my raid team that I need to meet before raid happens next on Monday. I have 5 days between now and then. What do I want to do? Well, I kind of feel like playing WoW. I'm going to sit down and play Classic. And I'll log into my mage, who's the character I'm not playing with my friends. And I will just, sort of peruse around, Westfall and do Westfall stuff. And I'll get the next rank of Fireball. And I'll have fun playing around with the next rank of Fireball. And it's enjoying those moments that you create on your own there. And like you said, drive-by buffing people, stuff like that, having those random encounters that I find enjoyable about Classic. It's not about the end game plan and the plan down the line. That's what for me BFA is for, right? Like I have the end game plan for that game. I don't need an end game plan for this one. This one's just enjoy the experience.
That's something
that
is
that all kind of illustrates like why it's nice to have these two parallel systems and these different sets of goals and progression, because really, Vanilla WoW wasn't designed as much of an end game loop, but eventually one was established, in 2005 and 6, and then ever since then, really every expansion has been about extending the end game loop. That's really what it's about, and for a lot of the customer base, that's kind of what they demand. Imagine if every 2 years you had to do Vanilla 1 to 60, the equivalent of that, over and over again. People would burn out. People probably, your average customer would probably not prefer that. Some people would get really into it because they would enjoy sort of that long journey from beginning to end, from starting fresh all the time. But really, the expansion era of WoW ever since 2007 has been extending the end game loop, and you can't I don't think you can really have what Classic represents in a system where there's expansions on top of it. It has to be the thing that you're playing in that silo, or else the whole loop and everything around it turns into something else entirely. So I remember, I think you and I were on Spencer. You and I were on this show right after BlizzCon 17 when Classic got announced, and all four of us were like astonished at like, why would they think this is a good idea?
Yep.
Who would want to do this? Who would spend any time on this? And it's kind of funny because over the years, and then when beta happened in the springtime, and I got in there and I was like, if they never move the goalposts, if they keep
Yeah.
this the way it's supposed to be, it stays 1.12 forever. They never do any kind of weird remixed vanilla content. They never put expansions on top of this, and they
Mhm.
leave Classic as it was designed and as the content was pre-Cataclysm, and it just sits here. This is an incredible boon to anybody who cares about World of Warcraft because it's always there waiting for you. You
Mhm.
always have new goals to pursue in a game as broad as that, and with the amount of time that it required. You could get a character completely tier 3 nax geared to the teeth and then start another one, and nothing's ever going to replace that. You're never going to have to then catch up through multiple other tiers of expansion content, level up another 10 times, get your weapon skills back up. You can just start another character and build this kind of stable of different play styles that was never going to be possible during vanilla's actual lifespan. So my real hope for Classic is that they leave it on 1.12, they roll out the 6 phases, and then they just let it sit. I don't rotate servers seasonally every 2 years, re-roll new servers or something like
Mhm.
that. I don't want progression servers like EQ does. I don't want expansions on top of classic servers. I mean, servers dedicated to particular expansion eras might be a different story, and I don't know how I would feel about that and further diluting the player pool into multiple different silos. But I think that there's a real opportunity here over the years, over the next 15 years of WoW's history, to have Classic exist in parallel with the live game that's always changing. The goalposts are always shifting, and they have these kind of ebbs and flows with each other where people who are playing both versions of the game, okay, I've met my goals for patch 9 point whatever. I don't really have compelling reasons to spend time in the game outside of organized activities with my guild. I'm gonna go work on my alt character in classic that's in in Ashenvale right now, and you can kind of invest time when something exciting is happening in one version of the game. It can demand your attention, and then that cycles down, and the other one can then pick up that attention and keep you having fun inside of WoW and pursuing goals with vanilla specifically that were just so unattainable to almost everybody who played it. I think that's the really exciting thing for me when I think about what does this system of parallel versions of WoW look like 3, 5, 10 years down the road.
That is something that's actually going to be really interesting to see because, I mean, you pointed out specifically, you can go get full tier 3 gear and everything and be the best, like best in slot because there's never going to be a better in slot item. It's never going to be the whole situation of green is the new purple. It just won't happen. So once that happens, like, I wonder how the player base is really going to handle it. Is it going to be, hey, that was great. It's been a fun ride. I'm going to go back and start another tune, like you said, which I know that there will be people who will do that. They're going to have probably, one of each class on each side. I mean, it's going to happen. And to those people, that's awesome. That's great dedication. I'm really happy that, Classic actually exists for that because it's something that was never there before. By the time that Burning Crusade came out, I mean, then again, there could be someone who had every single class fully decked out and just played a whole lot. I don't know. But I mean, the fact that that is going to be there and there's going to be this hardcore group that stays and really keeps that going is going to be something that I'm excited to see in a few years. Because, the fact that Classic is so focused on community, and, I'm just going to keep going back to that because that's that's one of the biggest draws that I think people have to Classic is the community, and just from what I've seen of how everybody just loves each other in it and stuff. Having that hardcore group just there and always there and welcoming new people who are coming in because who knows in another 5 years someone who might never have played Classic but is still, totally loving whatever WoW now is then, or WoW Future as I like to call it. Who knows what John, don't look at me like that. Who
Wow,
knows?
Steve. Wow, then.
Wow,
Yeah,
future.
exactly. You know, Blizzard is in theory going to hopefully be able to keep drawing new players in because, I mean, granted, who knows what's younger kids who saw their parents play Classic or Vanilla back then. If this is something that they're really going to want to get in and enjoy or experience and stuff. This is a good way to say, hey, this is what I did before you were born and I'm still playing. It's something that grew. A huge fan base that I'm a part of. Try it out. Let's play together. I've seen tweets about people, playing with like their 10, 12-year olds and everything who have no idea what a world without WoW is like, except now they're able to get in and experience what that was like before. And then just seeing the comparisons of wherever WoW goes with this like nice little, microcosm of players who just love the hell out of
Mhm.
Classic.
I think it's weird because you know, if you've been playing the game for a while, you probably remember or you consider 1.x and even 2.x, like the earliest days of the game, to be, so inaccessible and sort of not compatible with modern tastes. But I feel like on the flip side of that, Classic could represent a really good entry point to a new generation of players or new segments of players that wouldn't dip a toe into the live game because the amount of changes over the years and just how long this one environment's been running could be intimidating. Even though the gameplay itself is more accessible, it's more modernized.
Mm-hmm.
I would argue that in general it's more fun. The barrier is more of a social one. It's a societal one, not a gameplay one. And Classic being live is breaking that down. We're able to push a big reset button to reconnect with people that maybe we haven't played with in years, or maybe people who we could never really play the live game with because of reasons, geographical reasons, server separation, just different communities and ecosystems get established that are too hard to break. Um, all of these things are gone right now in the classic environment. And I mean, just anecdotally, I have young kids, like very young kids, way too young to play PC games, but they like to sit with me while I play WoW or whatever I'm doing, and they like to sit up my lap while I'm at the computer desk. And they've watched me play WoW and stuff over the years. Obviously, I mean, I do it a lot, and I spend a lot of time with them, so obviously it's something they've observed. But the other day, I mean, now it could be also a function of them just getting a little bit older and more perceptive. But I'm running around in Classic, specifically in like Loch Modan, and my son's watching me play, and he's much more engaged in it and more curious about what's happening and paying attention to these little bits of information on the screen and the way the characters are reacting to me and stuff in a way that he doesn't in the live game. And I'm wondering if just like there's a simple charm to the vanilla experience that's just very accessible for the stakes are so low. You're in this kind of grassy little highland area. There's some rolling hills, there's like a lake and a dam, and there's some
It's very little
spiders
graphically, yeah.
around. Yeah, and you just fight the spiders and then you move on to the next little area and you fight the trogs. And it's very graphically simple geometry, simple stakes and objectives. And I think there's something charming and attractive about it on like a primal level that I think even my toddlers respond to, and like obviously the game couldn't stay in that loop forever. You want to raise the stakes, you want to move the goalposts, you want to introduce new challenges, new features, new themes. You want to tell different stories and present players with different settings to play in. But that doesn't mean that there isn't value in having this version of the game be accessible and playable because it's a whole different it's just a completely different universe. The stakes are so much different. And that's why before we even started playing the beta, like when they announced the plans for the release date and the business model for this game, people immediately jumped to it. When are we going to get Burning Crusade servers? What about Wrath servers? What about this and
Yeah.
the other thing? And it's
Yeah.
like, why don't we slow down on that and just enjoy it for what it is. Enjoy WoW in its purest form, in the way that the people who played it first experienced it first, and all the expansion content is in the game. You can go do it in the live game. You can't experience it the way you would have if you're playing it at the time, but the questing is basically unchanged. The raids and dungeons are basically unchanged. I mean, I was in Dead Mines last night, like the actual legit launch Dead Mines for the first time since Cataclysm. You know, Dead Mines is not what it was back then. And I mean, they updated it for reasons and they brought it more in line with the modern game. But there's value in the way the game was originally designed, and I think having it preserved and accessible now for basically ever, I do think it's going to be an entry point for a lot of people, younger people, or just people who could never be bothered to check WoW out. It'll be attractive to them for a lot of these reasons, and I think they will find value and fun in there. And it may influence them to check out more modern versions of the game, and it may turn them into people that want to participate in our community. And
That's
I
what I
just think
want to
it's
see
incredibly
now.
valuable.
I want to see. So when we were leading up to this, I was like, man, I can't wait to see people who've never seen Vanilla WoW or have never seen the world pre-Cataclysm. I can't wait for them to see it. Oh, it's going to be so exciting. Now I'm the other way. Now the stream I'm most interested in is the people that got in on the hype around Classic, saw, oh, 1 million people streaming, this game must be great, and tried it for the first time, and now they're going to go, oh, they're going to hit max level, they're going to play through all of that, and they're going to go, oh, there's another version of this game where there's even more of it? Great, I'm going to get into it. And they make a new character on the live game, and I want to see their reaction to all of a sudden being in a game that is 15 years of development and changes and tweaks and alterations and philosophy shifts, and just go, yeah, check this out. When you think what you were in is crazy, just wait. It's going to get a whole lot crazier.
It's going to be a fascinating social experiment to see. And you know what? This just occurred to me while you were saying that. I think one thing Blizzard should strongly consider doing is offering like PTR style character copy for level 60 characters in classic servers to a live server of your choice.
That'd be cool.
Oh, no. Not at all. Because, I mean, think about it. You take that and then put them into the live server. Their entire idea and concept of what WoW is completely thrown away.
I know, it's
so
great.
they go in and they're like, okay, my talents are reset. Okay, cool. Open up the talent tree. What the hell is that?
Well, yeah, but any player going from classic only to the live game is going to have that experience. Just now, they're also starting completely from scratch. So, because I mean, you could also have like a level up character. And then you can go, okay, I want to check out like what is the starting character experience, but I also want to bring my character with me. I invested a lot of time to get this character to level 60 in Classic. I'm interested in playing the modern version of the game. You know, let me carry that investment, because I think for me that's been one of the big things that's kept me invested in the game over the years, is being invested in developing my character, like having that connection to a main character and wanting to take the character through the story, through the experience, level up and power up and acquire all various different types of resources. Like, I think that could be the thing that would really burn you would be your gold. You would not have enough currency to exist in the modern game, because you get so much more gold leveling to 60 in the current game than you did back then.
Yeah,
They
look at it
pop
this
into
way.
Burning Crusade with a whopping 10 gold. They're like, I'm rich. I'm ready to go. They can't afford one repair bill anymore. They're just like, what happened?
Right? Yeah, there'd be a little friction there. Maybe they kick you like a or something. They get you started.
But think about it. For the first time in 13 years, we'll have people walking around with full tier 3 sets of armor.
Yeah, well, see, that would be the tricky part. Is it would be because I mean the Nax armor is so controversial, right? That would be the problem. Maybe they would just consider your copied tune like kind of what they do with like a boosted tune, like they give you just a loadout of gear. Because I mean they sell the tier 3 stuff
20,000
on
gold.
Yeah. I mean they sell the tier 3 stuff on the black market auction house, and I didn't consider that angle. That makes it a little bit different.
It's crazy. It's an interesting world. It's an interesting time. I'm excited, and I think, Spencer, I think you said it. I think you're 100% right. There's something comforting about knowing, like, living in a world where it exists as a separate entity is perfect, because it is like we've said, the goalposts don't move. It's there. If you don't want to play it right now, don't play it right now. Guess what? If you want to play it in 3 months, there it is. You're not going to be behind. You're not going to be way behind the curve or anything like that. It's still there. It's exactly as it is. That's not moving. That's not changing. There is no catch up. There is no, oh my gosh, I got to get caught up. It doesn't exist in this game. Like, it, even if every person you knew was level 60 when you got in there, there's no reason to catch up. There's no reason to be like, oh, I got to race so I can play with it. No, you don't. Because guess what? There's not a whole lot of stuff to do when you get there.
Yeah.
Like, take your time, enjoy it, play it, see the world, see the craziness. It's fun. And I was watching, so Bo was actually streaming some right before our show, and I was watching him play. And just the one reminder, and I was right back in the headspace of it, but he's running around, and he picked a fight with a boar that was next to a scorpion, and I was like, that's it. That's it. You're done. Like, look at the mistake you've made in the world of Warcraft. You
How
know?
dare you attempt to kill two animals at once?
Exactly.
And he survived, barely. But he survived it, and it was like, man, yeah, jeez. Can you
That was an epic battle.
Can you
between a
imagine
boar and a scorpion and
that?
you.
two mobs at once, and it not even like cool mobs, like a scorpion and a boar, and it's
Yeah.
like, whoa, you've screwed up. You've taken a wrong turn in the journey of life.
Yeah, I want to point out one thing though, which is during launch when I was first starting to level my character, I was playing in a group of 5. There were 5 of us playing together. That is a really unfriendly thing in Classic.
Yeah.
If you play with more than 1 or 2 other people, if you're in a group larger than 3, like any quest where you have to collect items off of bodies, since it's all individual, takes like 5 or 6 times the time as it normally would. So there'd be like a quest where it's like, okay, we need to each get 8 of these of X things of, you know, I don't know, acorns or something, right? Like, okay, we each have to get 8 acorns off of squirrels, and we're killing a bunch of squirrels, and you're like, all right, well, since there's 5 of us, now it's 40 acorns that we need. And it goes from taking you, 10 to 15 minutes for someone to do it on their own, provided spawns are decent for you, to taking an hour and a half. And you're like, okay, now we've been killing squirrels for an hour and a half. This is not as much fun as we remember it being, right?
Oh yeah.
And so
On the bright side, you're getting a lot of squirrel killing XP.
There's a
and
lot of
that-
experience.
It does,
A
it
lot
does
of
add up.
experience.
Like, it's actually
Yeah.
really.
Yeah, it's a definitely a beneficial thing to have that experience coming in, but it slowed the pacing down of the game so much that I think it was actually detrimental to us having fun playing the game. So I would recommend, if anyone is going to be diving into Classic, the solo experience is good, but it's dangerous, and you're aware that it's dangerous. If you pull more than 1 mob, like that might be too much. You might have to run right away. You might be in too much trouble, and if they slow you, then you're just dead. There's nothing you can do. But if you're playing with one other person, to me is the ideal. The two people adventuring together, to me in Classic, is like the ideal amount of people to play together. Those
As a
quests don't
warrior,
take
man,
massively long. Yeah.
Because the warrior doesn't do anything anyway.
Well, the druids too, man. Like druids don't, until they get cat form at 20, like, are brutal to try and level up. As far as that goes, you spend a lot of time in bear form. Once you hit level 14, you actually get bear. But before that, you're like, to kill a mob, you go through your entire mana pool and you hit it a few times with your staff, and that's like killing 1 mob. Then you have to sit and drink for the entire duration of drinking, 20 seconds of drinking. So like druids are not like an easy thing to work on leveling up. If you want an easy class to level up with, you're looking at your warlocks and your mages and your rogues, and you're like, these are your key, your hunters. Like, these are your easier classes to kill mobs and move on to the next mob. So I do want to point out that as much as I love the Classic experience, that tainted it for me a bit. The fact that we were as a group of 5 and we were in one area trying to do one quest, and this happened multiple times. Like, there's multiple quests that were like this.
Any
so I think we
collection
probably
quest,
spent 4 hours or something on 4 quests, and you're like, that's way too much time.
So to close this out, let's go with okay, people who are playing in live who have never done Classic before. What tip would you give them for their first, when they're first stepping foot in live, like the difference that they can expect? Like, I'm not trying to make fun of progress or anything like that, but something that is actually really helpful, that's they can kind of take it to heart.
Let me give two practical ones and one pie in the sky happy one.
Okay.
The happy one is just enjoy the ride. Buy the ticket and take the ride.
Mhm.
World of Warcraft 1.x is all about the journey that you're on. The world has always and will always be the main character of this game. Go check out the world and have fun in it, and just go do whatever you think is cool. Now, if you want to enjoy the experience a little bit in terms of gameplay and practicality, there are two pieces of advice I would give. Number one, get bags as soon as you possibly can, and always have the biggest bags you can possibly afford to obtain. You will make your money back very quickly because you'll be able to carry around more vendor trash and other collectibles that you can sell. And coin is going to be the lifeblood of you advancing through the game early on. You're going to need to buy skills, you're going to need to buy conveniences, you need to buy a lot of stuff, and then eventually you're going to need to buy a mount, which is incredibly expensive. So
At 40, not 20.
at 40, yes. So get bags. Bag space is life, especially when you're starting up a brand new account in vanilla. The other thing is, if you're out questing, kill everything along your path, even if it's not a quest target. There are not enough. If you're familiar with the modern game, you've leveled up in the modern game many times. You probably have that experience of there are too many quests here, and I'm leaving this zone before I'm done all the quests. You will not, or very rarely, have that experience in 1.x. So there's not enough quest density to get you from 1 to 60. You're gonna have to grind. So you might as well, while you're stopping and smelling the roses and enjoying the world and exploring, just kill stuff. If you're going from point A to point B to do a quest, kill everything you encounter along the way, and then complete your quest, kill everything on the way back, and that'll really smooth out that XP curve. You got to remember that the game came out in a different era of MMORPGs, and the quest system in WoW was revolutionary. No other game presented this type of system to you, and people scorned it a lot. WoW was scoffed at because it was the baby MMO for babies that held your hand and told you where to go all the time. And it was really a sea change in the way that we played these types of games. So keep in mind the questing system is a little bit primitive. It was a little bit controversial at the time, and you will need to grind to fill in those XP gaps. So while you're out there running around anyway, you might as well kill some stuff.
All right, so I agree with with all three of those, for sure. And I would add that you want to get your professions early, particularly gathering ones, and use them every chance you get. If you get skinning, skin all the mobs that you can possibly skin, because when you move to a new area, you will not have a high enough skill level to skin or herb or mine the new things in that new area if you don't actually take care of it early. And you'll actually have to go back and backtrack to lower level areas and level that up before you can actually do it in your current area. So if you can actually get those professions, there's trade skill people typically along the road after you leave the starting area. There's typically a couple of trade skill people at the next hub. Pick up those trade skills early and actually work on them. Get them above 75 before you leave that first zone. Like, get them up to that level where you can train to the next skill and actually go on to the next zone and do the next thing. Because having to go back and farm mats to level up a profession like leatherworking or tailoring, or having to go back and actually kill a whole bunch of mobs that are low level that you get no experience off of because they're such a low level, to skin them, to skill up skinning, also not very much fun. So get the professions early.
Hi, everybody. John here with a pro tip.
Hi, John.
Let me tell you about first aid. If you're recent to the game, you've probably never heard of it. But if you're playing Classic, it's really important.
And if you're a tailor, he's got bad news for you.
Yep. First aid is an ability in Classic where you can heal yourself by applying bandages to yourself. And for a lot of classes, it's the only way you're going to get healed. Get this, even in raids. If you decide to go on and raid eventually, there's a good chance someone will look at you and go, "You're not getting healed. If you get hurt, go walk over in the corner over there and bandage yourself and then come back." So it's a skill you're going to want to level up, and I highly recommend you look into first aid. It's where all your cloth that's dropping is going to go. unless you're working tailoring, in which case, sorry, you're going to need way more cloth than you're going to get. It's going to suck. But that's the life you chose. Also, hey, rogues, I hope you wanted to be an herbalist, because you're going to be an herbalist. Now I know you're thinking, I'm a rogue, I'm going to be a leather worker, and I'm gonna skin stuff. No, you're not. You're going to be an herbalist, because you have to brew your own poisons. So, congratulations on your flower picking. It's what you're going to be doing. Make sure you take herbalism if you're a rogue. Start early, start often.
And get ready to move at 40% speed whenever you're stealth all the time.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
No more zoomy stealth business.
As
So,
a warrior,
Be
main, I
ready
approve
to
the
be
first aid
trying to
message.
be ready to be trying to gank a mob that is walking away from you and not be able to catch up to it until it stops.
So my two, one I'm piggybacking kind of off of one of Jason's. It is the the best advice that John gave me when I first started playing World of Warcraft, and that is, do not buy vendor gear. Do not go to the auction house to buy gear. Do not buy gear of any sort. You will be given new gear from quest rewards for the most part. Once you get much higher in level and stuff, if you actually have some cash to spend, feel free. But until then, vendor gear is as good as worthless to you, because you will get something better from a quest at some point soon. And then the second one, I know I say this every single week, but be good to each other. Call people by their name instead of, hey tank, or hey healer, or druid, or something like that. Remember, WoW Classic is all about community. It's about making your identity known. There's no group finder, so that means standing outside of a dungeon, shouting or speaking, to the whole zone in general chat or anything, trying to get people. If you are a rude prick to people, you're not going to have a good time, because they're not going to want to play with you.
And I think as a closing tip that we can all agree on, because we all know it's true, and we can all say it together when we get to it, so let me set it up first. If you're wondering why the hunter took that gear that you were pretty certain he didn't need, let's all together now remember the one rule of early World of Warcraft: all gear
All loot is hunter loot.
is hunter gear. So there you go. That's the biggest tip to remember. We all know it. Now you know it too.
That's why I rolled a hunter.
It's all yours.
It gives attack power, so I want it. So
It has intellect,
gives-
and I use a mana pool, so I need it.
there
It
you go.
gives mana. I just need that.
Look, I know it's leather, but I don't need the AC. I have a pet. I will take this gear, please.
What? It's plate? Well, I can sell that, and I need the cash.
I have to buy arrows.
You fire a bow. Why do you need a two-handed sword? Well, because sometimes things are too close to me, and I can't fire my bow anymore.
Oh, that was so freaking annoying, because I'm like, yeah, hunter, flump, flump, flump. Oh, God, it's standing right in front of me. Hit it with an axe.
Yep.
Lots of fun.
Wing
Well,
clip.
oh, yeah, I don't think I have that yet. Maybe? I don't know. But I will say, Spencer, Jason, thank you so much for joining us on this episode. It has been a blast getting some of your insights into Classic, and I definitely want to talk about it more, just to kind of, as Classic grows and turns into whatever it's going to turn into. I think we're all excited just to see what that is, if not, keep our feet in and swim around in it as well.
Absolutely. Thanks for inviting us. This is like
Of
the perfect
course.
week to come on and chat with you guys, because it's been such a heady, weird week for so many of us. So, yeah, really fun to look back on sort of the history of Classic as a product coming out and the conversations we've had around it, playing it for the last 4 days, and just zooming back to 2004.
Exactly.
Always a good time. Always a pleasure. Thanks very much for having us on.
Well, thank you. So, Spencer, until next time we have you guys on, where can people find you?
If you're trying to find me, you can find me on Twitter at Spencer_Downey, or you can find me on Twitch at twitch.tv/SpencerHD. And you can find our podcast, The Starting Zone, over on twitch.tv/SpazBot Studios, or on any device that can grab a podcast from anywhere. It's up on Stitcher, it's up on iTunes, it's all over the place. And we do a weekly what's going on right now in WoW Now, or Expanded WoW, whatever one you want to go with. episode on Tuesdays, and that episode is something people seem to really like. It's tips and tricks about what's going on in the game right now and getting people excited about playing the game right now.
Awesome. Jason, if people are looking for you, where can people find you?
So the best place to find me is over on Twitter. You can find me over there at Shieldwald, always talking whatever I'm doing in and around the game. And also you can find me streaming WoW 4 or 5 nights a week over on twitch.tv/Shieldwald. And it's right now it's just a big old hodgepodge of, BFA end game dungeons and raids and classic leveling and, doing level 20 dead mines and whatever else. So you can come and check that out too.
All right. Hey, John there.
Hey,
Where would be a good place to find you if one would be so inclined?
if they were inclined, they should follow me on Twitter at John_Jagger. I will tweet out what I'm doing, where I've been. But a quick rundown of where you can find me generally if you think, wow, I want more of that WoW Classic talk. Well, I've been doing a lot of it on 2 shows. I was a guest on The Gamers Inn with Jocelyn. That was a lot of fun. We talked about WoW Classic and No Man's Sky and Man of Medan. So check that out. That's The Gamers Inn. But I also have a regular show about video games that we talked about WoW Classic on, and that is called Core.
Core!
You can find out more about that at heroesforyou.com. I also play Dungeons and Dragons, Ben, which you know, because I play in a campaign of yours. But when I'm not playing in a campaign of yours, I'm playing in one that gets recorded and put on the internet, and that's There Will Be Dungeons, and you can find out more about that show at therewillbedungeons.com. Speaking of D&D, Ben,
Oh, yes?
you do a couple of D&D related things. Why don't you tell people where they can find you?
Oh, I do. Actually, also playing a game that is not the one that I run. Yeah, that's the best way to put it, I guess.
Great.
It is called +5 to Hit. Episode 26, I believe, is going up pretty soon here, which happens to be, if I remember correctly, the introduction of a pretty cool new character.
I feel like
But
you're
if you wanna-
promoting yourself there, but go on.
I don't know. But if you want to hear me talking about just like, rules, setup, DM, thoughts on things, player thoughts on things about Dungeons and Dragons, you can also check out DN Discussions. I do that with Ryan Reeder, also known as TBK Zord. And we just have a good old time talking about stuff. In fact, the newest episode, which I believe is coming out on Monday, is all about status effects, which sounds a little boring, but we actually have a lot of fun talking about it.
You're a status effect.
I know. And speaking of status effects, if you want to find out what actually happens in that D&D game that I run, you know what? Eluder and I sometimes talk about it on Box Fort. So check that out, because, my gosh, there's going to be some interesting stuff happening this weekend. That's all I'm going to say. Yeah.
As a cattail wanders past your face very
Perfect timing.
casually. Interesting stuff.
This show, though, Azeroth Roundtable, you can find us on Twitter. We are at AzerothRT. I just realized I didn't give my own personal Twitter account, which is at Ben Bumhofer. But again, the show, AzerothRT. If you have any questions, comments, want to tell us about how much you are loving WoW Classic, or why you think WoW Now is the best possible way to call the current state of World of Warcraft, you can email those to AzerothRoundtable@gmail.com. And of course, all of our episodes are found on AzerothRoundtable.com, as well as on iTunes, TuneIn, Google Play, Spotify, all those fun things. And you know what? If you're sitting here and you're like, man, my Friday nights are really boring, I wish there was something to do, you can always come and watch us live. We stream live Friday nights on twitch.tv/AzerothRT. Make sure to hit a follow so that you know when we are live.
Oh, you did that really well this week, Ben.
Well, thank you.
That was
I
good.
appreciate that.
I like the way you ended that. It was way better than when you get confused about how time works.
Yeah, I figured, it's a lot easier just to get a notification of when we're actually live, as opposed to, well, during non-winter times, we're at
Yeah,
this.
exactly.
Because we live in Arizona, everybody, you should just not do daylight savings time anymore. But anyways.
You really worked it out. I liked it. Hey, speaking of working it out,
Really?
Patreon.com/AzerothRT is where you can go to support this show and help us continue to do this week to week. We thank all our patrons who do just that, and we give a special shout out each week to the Murloc Club. That is Aaron, Brandon O, Haster, Jesse O, Caleb M, Kilroy-tastic, and Taryn. Thank you for being a part of the Murloc Club.
Which,
right.
another helpful hint, Murlocs are way deadlier in Classic. Way deadlier. Be careful.
Yeah.
If you see one, there's 3 more behind it. Always.
Yeah, you're just going to get mobbed.
It's rough.
Be careful.
It's rough stuff.
But again, chat room, you guys are awesome. Jason Spencer, thanks again for joining us. John,
Hi.
you're pretty cool.
Thanks.
Thanks for doing the show with me. I always enjoy it.
Yeah.
And with that, everybody, until next time, be good to each other.